Commute and call to order the June 28th, 2016 Port Orchard City Council regular meetings. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are on to the approval of our agenda this evening. Do we have any proposed amendments to tonight's? Mr. Clausen.
Mayor, I'd like to add two items. One under discussion for the Port Orchard, a discussion on the Port Orchard's administrative conditional use permit process.
Okay, let's probably do these separately, one at a time.
Yeah.
So it's to add a item 7D, administrative conditional use process, a discussion item.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion about adding that agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is added. You have a second one, Mr. Clausen?
And I don't know if we need to put it on the agenda, but maybe we can put it under the consent agenda, but excuse Mr. Kachardi for his absence this evening. His work has unfortunately kept him away from tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a consent item F to excuse Mr. Kachardi from this evening's meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we've added that to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to add a business item. It, I believe at this point would be business item E. And I would like to have a discussion of our public hearing on the imposition of vehicle license fees.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion of this item? Discussion item. So we have a discussion item of the carb tab fee proposal as a discussion item 7E. All in favor, say aye.
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 Seeing none, we have added that as item 7E. Any other amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Clausen.
are you adding something, or?
No, I was going to.
I'll
Make-
second your amendment.
Okay, I would move that we approve the agenda as amended.
And I'll second it.
Okay, discussion, further discussion of the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as amended? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. We are on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Comments, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I jumped ahead of that. I'm sorry. With this, we are to our first citizen comment period. Is anyone wishing to testify on any item that is on the agenda this evening? If you're here to talk about the car tab fee, there's actually a public hearing later in the meeting for that particular business item. So is there anyone wishing to testify on any items on the agenda? Okay, there's one more comment period at the end of the meeting for any items. So close the citizen comment period. I guess now I'll look for a motion on that consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, further discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been approved. We are on to our presentation. Mr. John Powers, you're here to tell us all about KEDA and the quarterly report.
I am Mr. Mayor, and to the mayor and the council, I thank you for this opportunity to come before you as we do on a quarterly basis to update you on the work of our Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, which is a county-wide alliance, and our public partners include the 4 municipalities in the county and port districts and other special purpose districts, and they partner with now nearly 80 private sector members that support our work as well. What we do is we report out to our public partners, such as the City of Port Orchard, on a quarterly basis. Tonight I'm here to just hit the highlights on the first quarter. We're almost done with the second quarter. It's taken us a while to get on the schedule. But we provide a written quarterly report to our partners. You have a copy in front of you, and that would have been received quite some time ago. We generally file our reports within 2 weeks of the close of the quarter, so this would have come into City Hall and to your mailboxes probably the second or third week of April. On the first page, it's kind of the big picture. It's what we've done county-wide relative to engagement of businesses, services to businesses. And for the new members here on the council tonight that may not be yet fully familiar with our work, our clients are businesses. And the vast majority of our clients are businesses that are already here and operating in Kitsap County. And our job as economic developers are really to work with that existing business base and figure out where their challenges are and how we can work with them to provide solutions or address those challenges and turn them into opportunities. That could be introducing them on a new relationship or a new resource, could be financial, could be HR. There's a lot of things that go into building up and moving a business forward, and that's our bread and butter. And in this county in particular, we spend a lot of time working with small businesses, defense contractors, in helping them attain government work here through the Department of Defense and other agencies. It's called our PTAC program. It's a Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and we're one of 5 statewide that has a team that focuses on that part of our economy. And of course, here in Kitsap, with the defense economy being nearly 50% of our local economy, that's a very important program for us. So you'll see the big picture at the top of page 1. This is county-wide, and then at the bottom of page 1, you'll see it broken down by jurisdictions. In this first quarter, we worked with 10 businesses that had Port Orchard zip codes. That's probably a little lower than normal. Generally, Port Orchard would be right in there, Kitsap County, Bremerton, and then Port Orchard. But we break out the type of businesses we serve and the services we provide them. And in this case, in the first quarter, we prepared or responded to inquiries on the economy and in particular Port Orchard to 5 businesses. We also directly contacted and responded to 3 businesses that were interested in relocating to this city. And then the bottom 2 are PTAC clients, again, those small businesses that we assist in securing government contracting. On page 2, you'll see that we were active in recruitment activities, particularly in the aerospace and defense arena. I have a brief video I'd like to show you tonight at the conclusion of my remarks that really helps tell that story about what Kitsap offers, our assets and our attributes to that particular economic sector. And then I also want to point out that we spent time with our real estate partners from the Kitsap Commercial and Investment Brokers Organization in attending this fall's CCIM annual meeting in Seattle, where there literally are hundreds and hundreds of commercial brokers that convene for education and marketing purposes. And we set up a booth this year in conjunction with the KCIB, and I think we did a good job getting the word out on opportunities here in Kitsap, particularly when opportunities over on the I-5 corridor are growing so expensive. So that was a nice opportunity. We also, this past year, have set up a Kitsap Tech Committee working with technology companies up and down Highway 3 and throughout the county. It's headed up by Mr. Ed Halda with Paladin Data Systems. Ed's been a technologist in this county for a long, long time. And the thing we're targeting for tech companies is what's the right profile? It generally isn't the go-go 25, 30, maybe even 35-year-old technologists that we're likely going to attract here, but it's the serial entrepreneur. It's the second or third generation of a business that might be started where the owner or owners are looking for more balance in their life, where they can find the community they want to raise a family and send their children to good public schools and really afford a balanced lifestyle. So we're working on that, and I'm real pleased with the outpouring we've had from the tech community. There's over 70 tech companies here in Kitsap County, and by our best rough estimate, they employ somewhere in the neighborhood of about an average of about 15 to 20 per company. So we have over 1,000 ITC full-time employees in Kitsap County, and we see that number growing as it's growing across the Sound on the I-5 corridor. We think we have the infrastructure, we have the talent base here, I think we have the capital to start and extend those companies, and so we're trying to make sure we focus on that, particularly at this time where technology is really thriving throughout the county. Then I also mention, as noted on page 3 of the report, that my colleague Kathy Kokas early in this year, at the request of Councilmember Ashby, spent some time with the council and the economic development team here at the city to just go over the nuts and bolts of economic development and what we do in providing those services. So we very much appreciate that opportunity. You'll also see on page 5, we summarize our marketing and outreach. We do a lot on our website. We do a lot with video. We have a video of the Port Orchard community, and if you haven't seen it lately, I encourage you to go back and take a look and use it again in your outreach materials, because it really tells your story very, very well. And we're going to show a video here that highlights one of your companies, aerospace manufacturing companies, that has recently rebranded itself to Kitsap Composites. Yeah. And it's right up here in the Port Orchard Industrial Park. You'll see that in a minute. And then also I would point out on the very last page of this report, I have provided you a copy of ads that we are now working with West Sound Home and Garden magazine on. So in every edition, we have an ad that features a local small business. We're trying to get the message out about this is a good place to live, and it's an excellent place to do business as well. So this month we featured the Gresham Company. It's a very remarkable company right here in Port Orchard, and they do work really around the globe in the petrochemical industry, in refineries and in production fields. They have engineering talent, they have equipment talent, maintenance and repair talent. And these two individuals that own and operate the company came from other areas of the country and chose here, Port Orchard, to acquire a business and build it to a much larger stature. And so that's just one example. I think this is the 4th in a series that we have provided over the last year. We're getting good traction because when visitors come into this area, particularly in the lobby of a hotel or doctor's office, whatever it might be, they'll pick up the Home and Garden magazine, and although it's focused on that very thing, home and garden, it's nice to see a little pop on our local businesses and economy, and that's really where your next job, your next investment comes from. So we're preparing for the Farnborough Air Show. We're sending a delegation that includes Jim Rothland, the Port CEO, and Commissioner Axel Strakeljohn. It's going to be led by Tim Thompson, who is the former CEO of the Port, and the three of them will spend nearly 8 days with the Department of Commerce, Washington State Department of Commerce, in what is the largest air show this year in Farnborough, England. And in preparing for that, we put together a video highlighting our abilities in the aerospace area and what this market has to offer it. So with your assistance, we're going to demo it for you. It's about a 3.5 minute video. So please. No sound. Ouch. You want to try the plug-in speaker? Okay.
For aerospace, defense, military manufacturing, Washington State's Puget Sound region, and especially Kitsap County, is the world's epicenter.
There's so much opportunity when it comes to land availability, when it comes to work source, when it comes to education, when it comes to quality of life.
Well, we think the advantage of this area is, on one hand, the proximity to tech, the availability of tech in aerospace and defense. These are large industries here. On the other hand, we also have a great place to live.
Kitsap Kitsap County plays a critical role in American defense and aerospace, from maintenance to manufacturing, and is poised for dramatic growth and prosperity in 21st century transportation, technology, and defense.
Kitsap County is fortunate to be in close proximity to the Boeing Company and the Puget Sound Arena, which is the epicenter of aerospace for the world.
We've got over 3,000 acres of industrial property here. We've got an airfield where you can take 737s and land them and take them off. We've got a rail line back this way that connects you to the national rail grid and also connects you to a deep water port that ships merchandise all over the world to China and anywhere to the west.
In the heart of Puget Sound, Kitsap brings 4 huge advantages: available infrastructure, land, and facilities, a highly skilled workforce, and state-of-the-art training, a technology and manufacturing base that fosters new products and skilled people, and the essential intangible, unmatched quality of life and work.
If you're a company that A, wants to be able to recruit the best and brightest employees, and B, you care about their ability to buy a home and to put their kids in good schools and all those kind of things, then you'd have to think about Kitsap County.
Quality of life starts becoming a higher value add to how people get their jobs done. And so I think that's something that Kitsap County has to offer that other places, not only in the state, but nationally, don't have.
The aerospace and defense industries, like the rest of our economy, are undergoing huge transformations.
I think my job in the state and in the department is really to think about how we strategically balance the commercial side with the defense side across every sector. I don't think of it as a vertical market. I think of the defense industry as a horizontal market that branches across multiple industry sectors. Being a defense community and being an aerospace community aren't mutually exclusive.
In this transformative environment, Kitsap County gets it. The influence of software and IT technologies, the growth of global systems and supply chains, the critical demand for flexible, committed people with diverse skill sets.
They're excited to be working on parts for space companies and for defense, because it is exciting technology. But what they do is they machine parts out of metals, out of plastics, different materials. Right now, our business park, 12 Trees, is 100% occupied, with technology companies like ours. There's Lockheed, there's us, there's Shanyata Research. So they are finding a home in Kitsap County.
There's a lot of synergy between aerospace manufacturing and defense. The kind of skilled workforce you have to maintain aircraft carriers, submarines, and destroyers, a lot of that skill set is transferable to the commercial aircraft manufacturing business.
Kitsap County and the state of Washington represent the future of aerospace and defense, not just its past. Companies like Kitsap Composites use state-of-the-art robotics and sophisticated manufacturing techniques for lighter, stronger precision parts. Kitsap educators are pioneering new courseware in cybersecurity, electronic warfare, and computer control systems. And most importantly, thousands of extraordinary people are showing up for work every day, trained, enthused, and committed.
You have the educated, skilled workforce, you have the infrastructure, you have the state support, and you have the heritage, which means a lot in this industry.
Their skill set is all the way from nuclear engineering to welding. So you can find any of those skill sets here, and you can find training for them here. Nobody else in the country, I don't think, offers the kind of training and employment options in the manufacturing world that we have here in Kitsap County. Nowhere.
If you do a circumference of 40 miles around Seattle, I can't imagine there's a place that's better all around than this.
Kitsap County, Washington, a living legacy in defense and new horizons in aerospace.
There were several shots in that video from Kitsap Composites, which until just last month was known as Omohundro Company. They've been here in this community for 3 years. They employ about 50 people. They make state-of-the-art radomes, composite communication structures for such companies as Boeing and Lockheed and Raytheon and L3. And I encourage you, if you have not gone on their website recently, just go to Kitsap Composites. They have about 20 small videos on their website that show you their technical capabilities. Fascinating stuff. The one robot that you saw in there is a 7-axis arm, yes, that the principal and chief engineer, Mr. Mark Sparks, who's just really a brilliant guy in this area, worked with another engineer to put together for their capabilities. It's really strong talent there. And when we go to air shows, whether they be international like Farnborough next week or whether they be up in Linwood at the annual PNNA, we take their story with us. We know their capabilities, we know their customer base, so we're always promoting opportunities for them. Today we met with a handful of companies to get their message, to get it tight so that our delegation can present their materials and their case for them when they're at this show. As an example, one of the companies featured here with Miss Anna Reyes-Potts as their spokesperson, the general manager, is TMF CNC Machining up in 12 Trees Business Park. 3 years ago, they were almost exclusively a defense and Navy manufacturer of parts. Today, about 20% of their business is in aerospace and space. They actually have parts that have gone up into space with Blue Origin and other companies, and they're doing work for a variety of aerospace companies now. So we've got the capabilities. Our hope is to diversify their client base and provide more and a broader array of products into the overall manufacturing supply chain. So we're proud of what we're doing. I think we're making some pretty good progress, and we're really grateful for this partnership with the City of Port Orchard and all of our partners to help tell your story to the larger audience and market. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Powers?
I got one.
Oh, you do. Sorry. Thank you. Mr. Peter.
One of your most popular downloads is a capability statement. What is that?
That's a statement that a contractor needs to put together for to secure a government contract for the Department of Defense. It's something we do in our PTAC programs. If you want our assistance, you have to first come to a general introductory course, and we cover all the waterfront about what it takes to get qualified to bid, succeed in your bid, and equally important, perform in a way that you stay on the list. So the capability statement is something required by the Department of Defense, and after they've done that initial class, many of them have a lot of follow-up questions, and we have the ability to help them walk through those statements again, and we'll even meet with them one-on-one and help them really finalize and revise their capability statement, which is really the first impression, if you would, for the procurement officer. So we get a lot of hits there.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Powers? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Love
and,
the video. Thank you.
I look
Good
forward to
luck.
being back in front of you again soon.
That was fascinating.
Thanks.
I think we could use our wayfinding sign.
All right. Moving on here this evening, we're on to item 6A, which is a public hearing on the imposition of a vehicle license fee. Is there a staff report? Brandy, you want to read that? Or you want me to? I'll let you.
All right. So at the May 17, 2016 Council Work Study Session, staff was directed to notice a public hearing on whether the council should impose a vehicle license fee by councilmatic action or by voter approval. And then on Friday, June 24th, a public hearing notice was published in the city's official newspaper, Port Orchard Independent, stating that the council's intent was to hold a public hearing seeking comment on the imposition of vehicle license fees by council action for a maximum of $20 per vehicle or a maximum of $100 per vehicle upon a voter approval. Staff recommends that the mayor open the public hearing for comments on the proposed vehicle license fees.
Okay, thank you. This time I'll open the public hearing. No one signed up, but doesn't mean we
Didn't know you're supposed to sign up.
don't have to. You don't have to sign up, but you're more.
Okay.
Raise your hand and step on up to the microphone and tell us who you are. And
Okay, my name's Dennis Carson, 2416 Anderson Avenue here in Port Orchard. adamantly against increasing our vehicle tabs. We went to the state, we've lowered them to $80 to $30, and then you guys just continually moved it up. I don't know how you do it, but you do it. But the reason you guys were saying was for Bethel Road. Bethel Road was voted in commercial. The only people that are going to benefit to a third lane will be the commercial property owners. There should be a 10-year levy or whatever you do on all commercial properties by their area to pay for the third lane. That should not come out of the public money whatsoever. And of course, you wasted all that money paving it when you could have wasted the money widening it. But of course, a lot of stupid decisions. They had a chance to fix that road down by the credit union, and when they repaved it and paved over all the trees, that all they do is cause problems. But that's my input. And I guess people that benefit from it should pay for it, and that's the commercial property owners along Bethel Road. We don't need more commercial property. I would imagine that at least 25% of the commercial buildings are empty in Port Orchard at this time. And I know of one shopping center where it's almost 100%. If it hadn't been for Tractor Supply. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you for your comments. Others wishing to testify? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Phelps, 1050 Hull Avenue, Port Orchard. I oppose the council putting $20 on our car licenses. I do not agree that my money be spent without my permission. I definitely want this to come to a vote. I'd like to make my own decisions on how my money is spent. I'm not saying this is not a need, because it is. And if it comes for a vote, I certainly would vote for it. But I want to be able to vote for it. And nowhere did I read how long this tax is going to be on this car tab. Does that go to the end of time plus a day? Or how long is that going to happen? And I think that, in all honesty, that we should have a right to vote on this, whether it be we pass it or we don't pass it. But we need it, and I know we need it, but I just don't want my money spent without my permission. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am, over here.
Glenna Bailey, 1745 Sydney Avenue. I agree it should be voted on for one thing. The next thing is, if the city puts it on, how long is it going to be before the county wants to slap one on? Because we know that will happen next. Tremont, the circles or the rotaries that were going to be built, how much property was bought years ago when that was first started? What happened to that property? The money was all spent. What did they buy? What can we sell? What assets are sitting around? I see the notes where we're renting parking lots and all. Maybe we need to rent some more or raise some rents. Or look at the families that have 3 and 4 cars coming and going in and out of the city. Whereas you have the retired couple that has one vehicle, they leave town, they come in and out of town, they do a little shopping, do a little pleasure, and that's all. And they're also on a fixed income, which of course is my song, because we are on fixed incomes. Every time you notch another $20 out, then the county will come and get another $20. That's $40. Nobody's going to give me a pay raise. And we recognize that, sure, the roads are a mess, but it's almost like the water, because somebody screwed up down at Tremont. Now we've got to try to recover it. It just seems there ought to be some assets in the city that could be sold. Businesses have customers coming in. Maybe they're right. Maybe the businesses do need to pay more for it, especially the Bethel corridor, which was all commercial. But just for the little old retired couple living here, We don't need our tabs increased. At least let the city people vote on it. If nothing else, we don't need it dictated to us, or the county will do the very same thing to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Others wishing to testify? Yes, Mr. Whittleton.
Nick Whittleton. My wife and I have both discussed this at great length. A while back, Councilman Childs made a comment when this issue initially came up. And that comment was that this should be in conjunction with the current funding and not used to replace that funding. And I agree with that 100%. This is, if this goes through, it's a bonus, and it should be used wisely and not frittered away. It needs to be designated where it's going to go before it's imposed. I'd also like to talk about the color of money. We always hear about the color of money. Well, I think this money should be colored. I think it should be colored to allow it to only be used for residential paving projects, not for development, not for planning, not for engineering, studies, equipment, or overhead. Strictly paving projects. The city has, by increase in water, sewer, stormwater, taken approximately 30 lattes away from my family a year. This would add 10 to it. The cost of government hurts small business. Question about burdening future councils doesn't apply. We've done it before, and it shouldn't come into question about the coloring the money. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Others wishing to testify? Yes.
Jerry Harmon. I guess I know that it's going through because the state has given you the ability to do this without a vote. So I would also like to say that I want it where I'm hearing, and it's on the internet, but other cities have had it in place, and so they're using that money for the paving and not putting as much in the road. So I also think that whatever percentage you have been putting in to the roads and the paving for the last 5 to 10 years, then that same percentage needs to be put in for the rest of the program. And I know that you say that a new council doesn't have to do it, but just some of the things that have come out about Bremerton and them playing with this money the way they have, a lot of people aren't happy. I would hope that you keep it at $20 and not put it, I'm not for a vote, that's just costing us more money because you can do it and you don't have to have a vote. And I would just as soon keep it at 20 for a while to see how it works out. And don't make promises that we can't, follow through with. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Others wishing to testify? Yes, sir.
My name is Patrick Lucas.
Could you raise the microphone up for us so we can hear you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Wonderful.
My
Thank
name
you.
is Patrick Lucas. I reside at 232 Goldenrod Street, Port Orchard. One question. How much more are you going to do to us, we the people?
Thank you for your comments.
Real simple. How much more are you going to do to us, we the people?
Others wishing to testify? Yes, ma'am.
Loretta Jacobs, 6984 Wentworth Avenue, Port Orchard. I'm just here to protest the car tabs, whether it be $20, $1, or $100. I think we're paying enough in property taxes to help support what's needed for the roads. First of all, years ago, you wanted to annex the Bethel corridor, and you promised all kinds of improvements, which never came about. You spent the money elsewhere. Same thing with McCormick Woods. You promised us lower fees, lower water bills, lower and everything, and they've almost doubled instead. And I don't know how you guys squander the money, but most of the people that live around here in McCormick Woods, and I can tell by these ladies, people here, are retired, and they're on a fixed income. And they don't need vultures to take more of their money. You know, basically, how much more do you want? Yeah, you're going to be driving people out of the area. Instead of getting more revenue, you're going to lose revenue. Renters who, as soon as they come here and know that if they live in the city of Port Orchard, they have to pay more money for their car debts, they're going to look someplace else to live, in the county, in Silverdale, and Bremer, or anywhere that's county incorporated. There isn't really any need. All you do is drive businesses and people away by raising taxes. Instead of thinking of the revenue you're going to get from people who stay here and make it livable and comfortable for us, you're driving us away.
Thank you for your comment. Others? Any other comments? Anybody else wishing to testify on that? Yes, sir.
My name is Gary Douthit, 1392 Cedar Canyon Place, Port Orchard. I would like to see a detailed plan on what you're going to spend the money on. Are you just going to widen Bethel? Are you going to put in the traffic circles on Tremont? What is the plan for the money that you hope to raise? I think that should be brought out to the public rather than just say, okay, we're going to have a tax on license tabs. We need to see a detailed plan on where you propose to spend the money. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Showers?
Bob Showers, 1425 Flower Avenue. First of all, I have to apologize because I really haven't been keeping up with this much. But when I saw the tags, the $20 thing, I thought, well, maybe I better come down and think about what's going on. But especially, you know, with the school board wanting money, taxes going up and everything else. And then there was a comment about $3.2 million in federal grants or something that we're going to lose or you're going to lose. And I was kind of wondering about all that. So if there's some place I can take a look at that, I'd like to see what all that was about because I don't understand the $20. So, all
right,
thanks.
Other comments or testimony? Going once? Twice? All right. Mr. Murphy, your head popped up. You sure? All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. All right. We are on to our business items for this evening. And the first is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending the 2016 budget. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Patonsu, members of the Port Orchard City Council, citizens of Port Orchard, and guests. Actions involving amendments to the budget take two readings. This is the second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 03115, adopting the 2016 budget. The city budget is written to capture revenue expenses over the fiscal year. During the year, changes to the budget in both revenue and expenditures need to be recognized by budget amendment. The budget amendment recognizes changes to the budget approved by council action during the first half of the year. The budget amendment ordinance reflects the following: $5,000 from general fund for the Puget Sound Regional Council and Kitsap Regional Community Council countywide application process, $40,000 from real estate excise tax for an additional funding for Phase 2 of the DeKalb Pier project, $58,000 from the impact fee fund for additional funding for the McCormick Woods Village Park Phase 2 design, permitting, and preparation of construction documents, $25,000 from the Water Sewer Fund for geotech engineering for well number 9, $15,000 from the general fund for wages and benefit and supplies for the new information technology specialist, $800 from the street fund for the information technology specialist, $2,750 for the new position of the technology specialist from the water sewer fund, and $800 from the storm drainage utility fund for the information technology specialist. $15,000 from the general fund for the Department of Community Development Administrative Assistant wages, benefits, and supplies. $9,500 from the cumulative reserve for equipment replacement for the Honda Police motorcycle purchased and for equipment upgrades to the motorcycle. $131,250 from the general fund for the information technology equipment purchases and Sitel Systems consulting services. $22,300 from the water sewer utility for the technological equipment purchases and Sitel Systems. $5,000 from the storm drainage utility fund for the information technology equipment and Sitel consulting services, and then $7,500 from the street fund for the same information technology equipment purchases and Sitel Systems. And then $12,154 to the general fund, proceeds from the Washington State Parks and Recreation Marine Safety Boating Grant. That concludes our first half budget amendment, and the Council Finance Committee recommends adopting an ordinance amending the 2016 budget. Thank you.
Mr. Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the ordinance amending the 2016 budget for the city of Port Orchard.
Second.
Is a motion and a second. Is there discussion of this ordinance? Hearing none?
I would just,
oh, yes.
I think what I would like to say is I would like to compliment our city treasurer and the finance department for their monitoring of our city finances. They do an outstanding job, and I've not known them to squander any money. I know them to be very diligent and mindful of all of our expenses and appropriately account for all of our revenues. So I appreciate the work our finance department does, Mr. Martin.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, and I'll carry that message back to the staff. It means a great deal to everyone. Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending the 2016 budget, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. We are on to item number 7B, adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code, chapters 15.04 and 15.12 concerning the 2015 Building Code and Fire Code. Mr. Bond.
Mayor and members of council. Every 3 years, the State Building Code Council adopts updates to the state building codes, including the IBC, the IRC, the mechanical code, fuel gas code, etc. These updates are adopted in the state WAC rules, and every 3 years we have to adopt them locally to implement the new state codes. Those new codes take effect on July 1st, 2016, later this week, and as such, the ordinance that is before you has been prepared to adopt the new codes by reference without changing any local amendments. And so, unlike 3 years ago, we haven't offered any substantive amendments to the building codes. We will be meeting with the fire district later this month to talk about some fire code issues, but those have not been resolved yet, and so it's possible we will revisit the fire code later this year. However, for the most part, this remains unchanged, and I should also note that I did send you a supplementary PowerPoint presentation outlining some of the technical differences, just to give you an idea of the types of changes that were in the new building codes. And so the ordinance we're recommending for approval tonight as written. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, Ms. Ashby.
I would move to adopt an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code chapters 15.04 and 15.12, adopting the state's updates to the city's building and fire codes.
Second.
And a second, is there any discussion?
as the maker of the motion, I get to talk first.
You do.
And so when I read the staff report and saw that we were asked to accept these codes in their entirety, and we weren't provided with a copy of them. So I went to Mr. Bond's office this morning and asked him if I could have a copy of those codes.
Did you bring a truck?
That's when he asked me if I wanted to read the stack of books like this or if I wanted the 53-page PowerPoint. So I opted for the 53-page PowerPoint. And with that, I didn't see anything in that overview that, number one, I completely understood, and number two, that I felt would be of any damage to the city. So that's why I will vote to approve the ordinance so that we're in compliance with state law.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item number 7B, adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code, chapters 15.04, 15, and 15.12, concerning the 2015 Building Code and Fire Code. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We are on to item 7C, adoption of an ordinance adopting revisions to Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 15.12, to allow medical marijuana cooperatives to obtain business licenses. Mr. Bond.
Thank you. On November 12, 2013, the City Council adopted Ordinance 23-13, which prohibits business licenses from being issued to medical marijuana dispensaries or collective gardens and prevented such uses from being located in the city. In 2015, Governor Inslee approved several changes to Chapter 6951A RCW that will take effect on July 1st, 2016. One change is the deletion of medical marijuana collective gardens, which will be replaced by medical marijuana cooperatives. A cooperative may serve up to 4 state-registered medical marijuana patients by producing and processing a limited amount of marijuana plants for personal and medical uses. At the June 14th, 2016 City Council meeting, the City Council directed staff to prepare revisions to the City Code to allow medical marijuana cooperatives within the city per Chapter 6951A RCW, subject to obtaining a city business license. Accordingly, staff has prepared revisions to Port Orchard Municipal Code Section 5.12, business licenses, that will allow medical marijuana cooperatives to obtain city business licenses. Amendments to other city codes, such as the zoning ordinance, will also be necessary for consistency with the 2015 changes to the RCW, but since these involve amendments to development regulations, a 60-day notice to the Department of Commerce is required prior to adoption unless expedited review is approved by Commerce. We did receive that expedited review notice today, and so we'll be bringing that back to you later in July. So for now, we're only considering amendments to Chapter 5.12, and later in July, you'll see amendments to the zoning code concerning medical marijuana cooperatives, and our recommendation is to approve the ordinance as presented.
Yes, Mr. Chang.
I'd like to make the motion. Okay. I move to adopt an ordinance adopting revisions to Port Orchard. I forgot what MC is. Municipal Code, Chapter 5.12, to allow medical marijuana cooperatives to locate and operate within the city, subject to obtaining a city business license.
I second it.
I am just ecstatic that somebody besides me had problem with Port Orchard Municipal Code.
I thought I'd be smart.
You did.
Yeah.
We're all struggling with Port Orchard Municipal Code. Can we all say that together? No. Mr. Diener, you have a comment?
Yes, I do for Director Bond. Director Bond, what would be the upside or the downside, or what would be both, to not requiring a business license for those that wanted to put together those cooperatives?
I think the business license is a way that we get alerted, and I think it is brought more clearly to the staff's attention when something like this is going to be put in place. We have had issues of enforcement with the Liquor Control and Cannabis Board in terms of enforcing state law with regard to some of the medical marijuana businesses. And so this gives us an extra heads up when the business license comes across our desk to know that a use is being established and that, we can make sure that if there are any problems, we know what those problems are. Otherwise, you have to go to the State Liquor Control Board, look through updated data, and it's not as at our fingertips.
My understanding, and I could be wrong here, but my understanding of the cooperatives that people wish to establish, they're not engaged in business transactions. Is that correct?
I don't know whether it operates as a business or it's, just a cooperative effort between people who know each other.
Okay. My casual understanding, my casual understanding is that it's really not a transaction-based cooperative, that people are partnering to grow marijuana, and some of it is medicinal in purpose. And I'm just wondering if in the end, a business license approach to these collective or these cooperative, these co-ops is appropriate when they're also regulated by state law, which dictates where they can locate and how many members can be a part of this, and a host of other regulations that are really dependent on whether they have a medical endorsement or not. So that's kind of where I see that maybe we're creating more of a situation than we need to with this.
If I may interject, I
Sure.
know somehow we need to be able to monitor where these are at, because they have to be a distance away from schools, bus stops.
A lot of criteria.
There's a lot of criteria to where they can be and can't be. And there's very few places within the city that they can be located. So, like as Mr. Bond said, whether it's a business license or some mechanism, I think we're going to need to want to know where they're at and be able to make sure that they can legitimately be at those locations.
Well, does a business license imply other obligations, reporting on taxes and those kinds of things?
I would just say that I have a business license, and I'm not active with it, and so I have no further obligations.
It's a one-time active license.
Well, I have to renew it.
And you file 0 sales tax every year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is some maintenance of that license.
I'm just wondering if
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wonder if a permit, I understand what Councilman Diener is saying, is that a business license just spells out that there's transactions and some monetary transactions taking place, and I wonder if a permit wouldn't solve the problem.
Mr. Bond?
I would just say that a business license is a whole lot easier to obtain than most regulatory permits. So this is probably an easier process than if we were to make it a conditional use or attach some other conditions that require review by our department. I think, I don't remember what the cost of a business license is. I think it's
$35.
$35.
In Port Orchard, the business license is a regulatory tool to determine who's operating within the city. It's not a revenue enhancer, it's just a regulatory tool. I think probably where you're getting at is when you say business, is it generating income? Is that what you're...
Yeah, it implies with the business license that you're being licensed for business activity, and my understanding of what state law allows is it's not a business. It can't be a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a membership-based co-op limited to 4 people and a host of other regulations, including location.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and read the definition of license and business, and in the context of this statute, so I couldn't answer that actually.
Other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. We will be voting on an ordinance adopting revisions to Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapters 5.12, to allow medical marijuana cooperatives to obtain a business license. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
1 In opposition, the motion carries. We are on to our first discussion items. First of our two discussion items, it'd be 7D, administrative conditional use process. Mr. Bond.
Yes, thank you. I provided a memo that I emailed to you earlier today, and you should have copies on your desk. But recently, we've had a couple of applications for administrative conditional use permits come into my office. And what we've realized is that there are the process that was created a number of years ago was created to try to provide an extra level of scrutiny for certain types of uses without making them go through a full-blown hearing examiner process. However, we designated a whole list of different uses that would have to go through this process, but we didn't actually define the process in our code. And so for the last few years, we've been improvising and trying to create a process to review what are identified as administrative conditional uses in our zoning code table. This worked fine, and we, over the years, have also looked at our fee schedule and have updated our fee list. And when we calculated a fee for an administrative conditional use permit, we looked at the amount of time that it was taking us to review this under our sort of ad hoc review process that we had created, and we set a dollar amount at $600 because there was a list of criteria, there's a decision that has to be written, notices that go out, and what we've learned is that because home-based businesses are administrative conditional uses, that is a high price for a lot of home-based type businesses that are operating either as a hobby business or something that generates very little income. For a lot of people, that's a barrier that's too high for actually getting their business off the ground. And so the deficiency in the code, the lack of a process for approving an administrative CUP, combined with the cost of administering the process we do have, plus the advice of the attorney that probably should move away from this process anyway, as it's sort of it's something that a lot of cities do, but I don't know that there's a clear legal basis for having an administrative conditional use permit versus either an administrative approval or a full conditional use permit before a hearing examiner or board of adjustment or planning commission. And so I had my staff look at this after talking to the mayor, and we realized that there are 12 uses in the city that require this type of permit. General business services, professional office, automotive parking, social services, miscellaneous health, printing and publishing, movie production and distribution, group residences, residential living quarters, home industry, home occupation, bed and breakfast, and eating and drinking places. And depending on which zone those uses are proposed for, in some cases it may require an administrative conditional use permit. I think that rather than just looking at this as a problem with the fee and making it hard to get this permit, this is actually maybe an issue where council wants to either decide which of these uses are allowed and which ones require a trip to the hearing examiner for approval. In most cases, I would say that these things can be approved directly administratively without this administrative conditional use process at all. So we put together some red line changes of what a code amendment could look like to fix this issue. And we've suggested in most cases that the uses either be permitted outright or that they, in a few cases, require a conditional use permit. And we've also made some adjustments to the footnotes to try to anticipate any problems that might be associated with a particular use. In any event, we have a couple of people who are pending business license review and administrative conditional use permit review that I think are either going to submit their application and continue with it, or are going to wait for something to change or not move forward, depending on which direction the council would like us to go with this. And so my recommendation is that we actually move forward with this as sort of a housekeeping type amendment. And there is at least two other, whether they're Scrivener's errors or just minor inconsistencies in terminology that we're also fixing as part of what has been drafted here. And so since we had a light agenda tonight, we wanted to bring it forward for discussion and see how to proceed, and if we can make this fix quickly, we would go ahead and initiate that and bring it forward to you as soon as possible so that we can get this cleaned up.
An observation, did anybody else get a red line version? Or I got a black and white red line
black
version.
and
He had emailed them out, and mine printed red.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. My copier was out of Staples, and I sent it to the other one across the hall, but apparently you have to manually set it to color.
So it might be helpful for those that didn't get the red line version to get a red line version. So I think Nick's really looking for direction.
I would like to talk.
Look, wonderful. Go ahead.
I just want to talk. I remember I sat on the Planning Commission when these administrative conditional use permits were originally created. And it came out of the creation of our business professional. And the Planning Commission went through quite a process at that time when we were looking at the business professional designation as to where we put things. So I have and that was several years ago. I have no problem updating this, but is there a way that we could accomplish this by taking it back to the Planning Commission before and review there before it got to council?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the courses of action are to take it through the traditional process where it goes to the Planning Commission, it goes to the Department of Commerce for a 60-day review, and then we could bring it back to you, I guess, in late August. We can also ask Commerce for expedited review, in which case we could do this a little bit faster and potentially get it to you at the first meeting in August. The Planning Commission meeting for July has been canceled, and so their first meeting is not until August, I think, first, second, or early August anyway. Yeah, so the one alternative would be to take it to the Planning Commission and have them make a recommendation before council takes it up. The other one would be that because a few of these things are legal risk type issues, it's possible that you can consider this as an interim ordinance to make the change. I also forgot to mention that we have one of the errors that we found was that in 2002 we amended the zoning table to deal with churches according to federal law, which says that they have to be treated the same as other fraternal organizations or meeting places. And so in 2002, we fixed the code to comply with federal law, and then we subsequently amended the code, and that change didn't carry forward, and I think that was just an oversight at that time. But in any event, we have an inconsistency where churches are not allowed in all of the same zones as clubs and businesses or location uses of that type. And so we had somebody inquiring about a property, and that's how we found out about this. So we either need to decide that all of those are allowed in our commercial zone, or that they're not allowed in the commercial zone at all, or that they're all conditional use permits, but they have to be treated the same. And so that's the other part of this. And so I think to comply with federal law, you could do this on an expedited basis if you wanted to.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Dieter?
So I had two comments. One was I was curious about the Planning Commission role in this. And second, I applaud staff's effort to take a look at streamlining its code. So often we get caught up in the trappings of decisions when the conditions attached to those decisions could simply be codified. So I support the direction that we're headed.
Okay. So which direction is that? Are we taking
an
expedited process?
I
or is it going to take the
Planning
Commission process and then to Commerce and then back to the council, bring it back to us in August?
So my understanding is Commerce and Planning Commission are a concurrent approach. So I would support Planning Commission and back to council.
Okay, in August.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Okay. I've heard a couple for that.
Okay.
Okay. Is that?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Heads are all nodding that direction.
And just for clarification, I think maybe we should also take this to the Land Use Committee perhaps for discussion. And I think the big question is fraternal organizations and churches. Commercial real estate is obviously valuable for sales tax base and other purposes. I think we need to make a decision, or at least put into our draft ordinance, whether all of those things are going to be allowed in commercial, or whether they're going to be conditionally allowed, or whether they're not allowed. And so any input that you have on that, you can email to me, or we can talk about it at Land Use Committee. But I think that's an important policy decision that will have to be made as part of this.
Yes,
I
Mr.
just
Chang.
have a comment. I like what you gave us about the home-based businesses. I know that's just part of what you're proposing, but I believe home-based businesses should be encouraged as long as there's no impact on the neighbors, and we have conditions to ensure that in terms of parking and the number of employees. So anything I think we can do to streamline that is good.
I know initially when the planning commission looked at it, our intent was to streamline and make it easier for certain uses. And I don't think that at any time we thought it was going to involve a $600 fee to make that happen. So I think there's lots of reason for us to go back and look at that.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, are we talking about Land Use Committee and then Planning Commission, or Planning Commission then Land Use Committee?
I think based on the schedule, Land Use Committee, then Planning Commission, then Council.
I think that'll help with the commerce timeframe.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, we are on to our next discussion item, which was 7E, a discussion of the public hearing we had this evening and the direction the council wishes to take this going forward. So, Councilmember Ashby, I think you asked to put this item on the agenda. Would you like to speak first?
So I would be glad to speak first. And I'm in agreement with many of the comments that our citizens made today, in that I fully believe that a detailed plan for use of these funds is very important. And for our citizens in the audience, we have, I believe prior to the end of the year, we have a pavement management contract, and we will have information back knowing exactly, upon receipt of the pavement management report, we will know exactly what our preservation and maintenance needs are. We will be able to prioritize that, and then we will know exactly where monies will be going. And if those dollars look to be significant, then I personally would support taking a detailed plan to the public for a vote. With that said, I would like to say that transportation dollars are very, very competitive. It is not easy for us as a city to obtain federal or state transportation funding. In order for us to score on grant applications and to be looked favorable on any outside funding sources for us, it's important that we've implemented the tools that the state has provided to us. That includes such things as traffic impact fees, which we have instituted and we're now collecting. Concurrency is another thing that grant sources look for, and we have instituted a concurrency policy. So we're taking all of the steps we need to do so that we can get outside funding to help us with our transportation needs. Another one of those tools is the Transportation Benefit District, and be able to assess license tab fees. The way the RCW reads, as I understand it, is councilmatically we can institute a $20 fee, and if we had a vote of the people, we could go up to a maximum of $100. A vote of the people is expensive for us. And now, so that's kind of the ground rules that I'm putting out there. This council, on numerous occasions, have made the Tremont project as our #1 priority. As recently as our last work study session, we made that commitment to our lobbyist and told her that Tremont was our #1 project. On February 9th, we passed a resolution as a council to support the Tremont Street widening with the intent to finance that project through the acceptance of grants and the issuance of general obligation bonds. With the issuance of general obligation bonds, we have to debt service those bonds. And so, anticipating that debt service, it's important for us to identify revenue sources. I feel that the $20 fee is needed if we are to move forward with Tremont or if we abandon the project. There was one gentleman who spoke who did not have the information on, he apparently on the internet somewhere read that we have accepted money. Yes, and this is the case. We have accepted about, I'm going to say $3.4 million for Tremont. We have done that with design work. We have bought right-of-way. We have done things with that money. If we do not obligate and complete our commitment on Tremont by September of 2018, we have to pay back that $3.2 million. So whether we pay back the $3.2 million or we bond to complete the project, either way, that money will come out of our general fund and we will have less money to put for road preservation. I personally think it's prudent of this council to institute a $20 tab fee right now so that we can be eligible for the outside funding we're seeking, because I would hate for us not to be eligible for that funding for want of a $20 tab fee, because we need it, and if we can't get the funding, we have to have it anyway to pay for the money we have to pay back. And I would also say, just most of your seated council has not been party to any of the decisions that have been made to this point on Tremont. What your seated council is doing is trying to execute the best solution we can on behalf of our citizens. So my personal recommendation and what I would be supportive of is for a resolution to be presented at our next meeting to institute a $20 license tab fee.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Chang.
That's a hard act to follow.
That
is. So mine's going to be much shorter. I would support a vote, but with the answer, like which election it would be and how much it would cost. Obviously, I would not support a special election where the cost would be exorbitant, but perhaps with the general election or an election where you already have other items on the ballot would make sense to me. One thing that the vote would require, I feel, is that we would need to provide a lot of information, which we have been lacking. I think we need to provide questions and answers to many of the questions that we've heard tonight, some of which are more accurate than others, but I think we need to address those. And what I'm also hearing is that I think people would be comfortable if they knew not only how much was raised, but where it was specifically going. And maybe if we reported on it every year, like this is what we raised, this is where it goes, or this is where it went, and these are the projects that were funded, I think people would be much more supportive of that. And I think we're pretty much on the same page. Well, I'll just stop there.
Yes, Mr. Diener.
So I concur with both of the previous speakers. We've been presented with some information by Public Works that suggests we've got a very expensive right-of-way maintenance program ahead of us for years to come. We're also looking at our sidewalks, and I believe sidewalks are eligible for car tab funding. But
the ADA
the ADA accessibility citywide is going to be something that's going to is forced upon the city by the Department of Justice, but it's something that will impact grants as well, and is literally, I think, in the tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to look at citywide. We don't have that kind of money, so anything we can do to help is needed. And so with that, I support the previous speakers, and the idea is that we somehow get information out to you, information portal or information availability, talking about how this money will be spent. Thank you.
John, do you have a comment?
I remember about 12 to 15 years ago, Tim Eyman, his first successful initiative was to was to defeat the car tabs and reduce them down to a very base amount. And when the information came out, and I can recall I had a $350 tab fee, and when the following year after that was passed, it was down to $60. In the interim, it came out where all this, the excess money had gone to, and I was pretty upset as a citizen that a lot of the money went to fund things that had nothing to do with transportation, nothing to do with cars. I mean, when the light was cast on where all that money went, it was pretty ugly. And I can completely understand citizens wanting to know, where is this money going to go, because it was aggravating to see where that money was squandered. So I'm completely in agreement with the previous council speakers that we need to have a detailed plan of what we're going to spend the money on and provide it to the citizens.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes, I am agreeing with all four of you, and I also agree that the uncertainty of how money is used is what most of us have a problem with. I do believe, and what we will do, this will be designated funds for what we're saying these are going to be used for. We have a conundrum, and John's been saying this for years. When I was sitting out there all the time listening to all of this, he said the city has a problem raising revenues. And I didn't quite get that. But with all the mandates that are required of the city, with so little funding coming our way, it is a problem. And there is very little revenue. Something that was considered along the way were raising various taxes and such. The car tab fee was predictable. It's a relatively small amount when you consider the return. And what it does is for those of us who have cars and are using the streets, we are helping to pay for what we need. So it's very directed. That we, vehicle users, are helping to pay for streets. Now, I think most of our anger really needs to be at the abuses at the higher level. So what's going on with the rest of our taxes, right? The federal waste, I'm just saying this, federal and state waste, that's something we really need to look at and continue to work at, those levels. But when you get down to the city level, I really don't think there is a lot of waste, and I used to think that there was a lot more of it, and I've become a whole lot more educated. These are huge challenges. When we're mandated to pay back $3.2 million, I can't imagine that we would hand over that money and not have anything to show for it. So we need to move forward with that project, and the longer we wait, as we all know, the more expensive everything gets and the more regulations we have to follow. We need to do this, and I do believe that the $20 tab fee is manageable. We can plan for it, and in our household, we're going to just buck up and pay it, but this is something we need to do now, and more than anything I've ever seen, I know that these funds are going to be put to good use, and you can come back and ask us how we've used them, and we'll be able to show you.
Mr. Clausen?
I think I would only add a couple things to what has been said. I think Beck did a very nice job of explaining the entire issue. But part of the challenge is, this is our city, not ours up here, but ours collectively. And we just happen to be the ones that have to figure out how to make all this stuff work. And unfortunately, there are times where these, as we've referred to it in the past, these unfunded mandates, some good, some not so good. I guess I don't have necessarily a big problem other than knowing that it's going to be very expensive, the ADA requirements that are coming down on us for sidewalks.
it helps with those who use walkers and other mobility devices to get around our community. But it's expensive. We have no option. We have to figure out a way that we all can collectively come forward and pay for these things. Same issue as with our roads. I think we're all familiar with our streets. Our streets are continuing to be bad, and they're getting worse. And we need to be able to be more proactive on repairing our streets on an ongoing basis so that we can drive these streets without damaging our tires and our vehicles. So I think this is one component to giving us the tools, if you will, to fix and to deal with these issues. And I think I would also extend a challenge to each one of you when it comes time to building the city budget. You wonder what we do with your money, we squander it, come down here and be a part of it. Because we sit out here in numerous meetings going through the budgets, talking about where the money is going to be spent or how we can get money to do this or what projects we have to do to try to make it continue, whether it's with the water system or the streets or the police department or any other function that the city provides. So I would certainly challenge you all to come this fall when it comes time for putting this budget together for the city. And at least, if nothing else, you can hear the discussion about how we are trying to make that dollar, like we do at our homes, go as far as we possibly can. My only difference, I agree with everything being said. I think it needs to go to the vote of the people. I don't like the special election thing, but that's because it's very expensive, but I think it needs to go to a vote, and I'm going to stop there.
So if I may, I think we've come a long ways in the last 6 months or year in relationship to transportation. We heard some folks speaking to the need for businesses to pay for this growth, and we implemented a tool, the traffic impact fee. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bond, I believe that traffic impact fees will pay for up to 50% of the Bethel project is eligible for those fees.
I believe that it's close to 50%, yes.
So this is an important tool that we've put into place. The other is the Transportation Benefit District. These funds are only eligible, the car tab fees, to be used for transportation. And I agree that we need to be accountable for this, and we should be showing everybody how we're using these funds that can only be used for street projects. You know, we need to be reporting on it and celebrating it, you know, what we've done, and showing, you know, our citizens that we've managed these funds properly. So I certainly hope that we move forward on this. Beck, I think, said it very well. We've got a huge challenge in the Tremont project, and this is another tool that we need to have in our toolbox. Mr. Clausen.
Just one thing I'll add to that, and this kind of follows along once again with Beck's comment. This morning at our Finance Committee meeting, we were talking about different funding scenarios for Tremont, and one of the things that we've been talking with is the State Transportation Improvement Board about a loan to help pay for the Tremont project. And
actually, a grant.
Yeah, a grant.
Well,
it's a grant.
Yeah, it's essentially 1.5%.
No, this is the TIB is a grant.
Oh, not the TIB, but the
there's
Public Works Trust Fund.
There's another program
with the state that we're hoping to get a loan for that's like 1.5% interest. And in our discussions with them, they're asking those questions. Are you doing everything that you can to be proactive on these issues, like the impact fees, like the license tabs, so it is something that, although you may not see it in black and white as a condition, they're asking if we're doing our part. And that's going to help save us all, because if we can get that fund at 1.5%, that's a lot better than you and I can go to the bank and get it.
The other thing that I would just tell the citizens is this Tremont project there, the city is working extremely hard to get as much funding as we can. This is nothing we're taking lightly. We work at it diligently, both at, you know, with opportunities we have at the state and opportunities we have with some of our other partners. It consumes a great deal of our energy and our time, and it would be a real shame not to be able to bring these funds to the city for want of a license tab. Yeah.
So is the direction, I'm hearing differing views, is the direction to bring this back to our next meeting with a potential resolution that we will take further deliberation and potentially take action on, whether it be...
That would be my recommendation.
And I concur with Commissioner Ennis.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. We will make it happen. There's a public comment period at the end of the meeting, and we'll get a chance to do that. Yes. Yes, you may. We are done with our business items for this evening. We have council committee reports. And we are, Mr. Clausen, Finance Committee, met this morning.
Yes, we did. We met this morning and got our monthly report on sales tax receipts, and sales tax receipts continue to come in stronger than budgeted, which is good news. So from that standpoint, we're doing well. The real estate excise tax is also coming in a little better than we had budgeted, so that is good news on the revenue side. On the expense side, everything seems to be moving right along as expected, so no major issues there. We also heard a report on the effort that Mayor and Mr. Martin is doing on the technology improvements here in City Hall, that we're relatively close to having the wireless system upgraded in the building, which is going to be a major plus for those of us that are trying to go paperless. We also heard a report on the recruitment process for our person that's going to be kind of the service helper, if you will, the desk service helper, and they've found an individual that they're very pleased with, so sounds like that person will be coming on relatively soon. We also spent a fair amount of time on the potential financing. Mr. Martin and Mr. Dorsey and the mayor have done a great job of kind of laying out the Tremont project as anticipated, identifying when potential expenditures are going to be needed to be made, and when and how much we should be planning on making payments, and or when we have to borrow the money. So using up what we can with the grant money first and then borrowing. So there's more to come on that. We asked Mr. Martin to put it on the agenda for a work study, so we all have an opportunity to take a look at that. And then the mayor provided us with some updated information on some discussion he's having with the fire district over some fire inspections and the costs of same, and also some information regarding the effort to looking at the space usage here in City Hall and the repair works and potential expansions and or options for that. So that was pretty much what we discussed this morning.
And economic development and tourism.
Yes, the Economic Development and Tourism meeting will not be on July 11th. We have moved that to July 18th at 2 p.m. because because that meets Mr. Bond's and my schedules better. And we will be inviting guests to that, as I'm looking directly at you, Mr. Murphy.
Okay.
Would you like me to do KRCC
Go
now
ahead,
or
do
later?
KRCC while you're at it.
Okay, the KRCC is not having their meeting on July 5th, nor do we typically meet in August. So our next meeting will not be until the first Monday of September. However, as we discussed at our last meeting, one of the proposals coming before KRCC is a commitment letter from each jurisdiction, their commitment for the following year. So I have done up just an informational outline that I wanted to, I don't know how I want to present it to council so that we can perhaps be informed and educated on making that commitment so that we have it before KRCC gets back together in September.
Mr. Clausen.
Beck, you made a comment about the first Monday, isn't it the first Tuesday?
It is. If you were there on the first Monday, you would be by yourself. Yeah.
That's why I didn't want you to be by yourself.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay. And nice work on this. This is a great information
Can I
piece.
hand this out, or?
You may. I thought you did already.
No.
Okay, that's wonderful. Do we want to put this on the website, city's website?
If you think it is grammatically, I think I've got it.
I'm a reformed banker also, so looks good to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to utility meetings.
So we met this past Monday, and Mark gave us quite an update on wells 10, 13, and 9. That information being very important, we asked to have it taken to a work study. So that information will be available, and we will be listening to all of that in July. There are a lot of changes to the wells plan here in Port Orchard. I think good ones. Well 13 is something that we look to develop to be able to supply the water that's needed for the area where most of our growth is taking place. It's very interesting, and I think it would pay for all of you to attend that meeting to hear all of the details because there are so many. Also, we were talking about some mandates that are coming our way with stormwater code. There's some updates there, and grease trap and interceptor requirements. Again, interesting information. We'll be discussing that more, and most of it was just updates this time. We have our next utilities meeting, July 18th at 9:30 a.m. But again, I stress, at our work study, we will have some very detailed information regarding wells, which would be a huge benefit for everyone to be there. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to sewer advisory committee. Have you met?
No.
Okay.
We won't be meeting until July 20th, and that's at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. Land use.
So we met on June 15th. All committee members were present, and we had the mayor there as well, and Development Director Bond and Public Works Director Dorsey. We had a presentation by Dick Brown, and Dick Brown presented on a proposal that he's calling the Ross Point Conservancy Proposal. So if you can imagine the area where 16 and 166 bound, it's that generally undeveloped area consisting of about 200 acres. That he would like as he said at this meeting, the city to be the lead agency for grant applications. While it was a good discussion, he really didn't tell us what that meant. So we asked for him to come back and explain a little bit more about what he has in mind with a conservancy proposal and having the city be the lead agency. We did point out that there are options that need to be considered. We talked about what it would look like to be a heritage park. That was one idea that Mr. Brown threw out. It was pointed out that a heritage park needs to have much greater care and consideration in planning and development than a conservancy. You've got to consider access, utilities, public safety, and maintenance costs. But essentially, we asked that Mr. Brown come back with more information, and he said he would continue to coordinate with his partners, including the county and other potential legislative opportunities, and he'll come back to the city with more details as that information becomes available. I think we were looking at a potential acquisition cost of $3 million for that property. So that is kind of a staggering number for us at this point. So we'll know more information about that as we get it. And then the only other item on the agenda was a request for no parking signs on Sprague Street. And we requested that the Rockport Homeowners Association come back with a properly signed letter requesting no parking signs. Enforceable no parking signs. And the next meeting is on July 20th, 7:30 a.m. here.
I think it's May 20. Yeah. It says on the agenda, May 26th.
Oh, May 26th? No. No.
17?
Yeah, July 20th.
July 20th, all right. Lodging Tech Advisory.
I believe the committee's still being formed, and maybe the city clerk can update it when it's her turn.
Okay, we'll wait for staff reports on that. Chimes and Lights?
We canceled our June meeting mainly because most of the people involved are volunteers who were actively involved in the Fathoms of Fun Festival, and it was a bad time for them to have to be meeting, and we had a very light agenda. We'll be meeting July 18th at 3:30 p.m. here at City Hall.
Okay. On to the mayor's report. Councilmember Ashby and I went to the AWC annual conference last week in Everett, and wealth of information. Since we have a number of citizens that probably want to get comments tonight, I will, at a future mayor's report, give some details on some of the informative sessions that we intended. And probably the highlight of my today though, was I had 18 preschoolers that wanted a tour of City Hall today. And we had 7 of them up here at the dais, actually 8 of them. One was in the mayor. They had staff, they were staff members, they were citizens, and we talked about all the jobs of each one of the staff members. We held a little mock city council meeting. We had a citizen come to the microphone and complain about a barking dog that was keeping her up all night. I might have been whispering in her ear, but city attorney gave some advice, and the police chief was there and said he would deal with it. So it was a productive meeting this morning, and that's all I have. So we will move on to department head reports. Mr. Martin.
A couple of comments tonight. I did follow up on Councilman Diener's question on the licenses. And RCW 6951A260 gives states, counties, and municipalities the right to impose civil penalties for the control of cooperative gardens, and that also follows through to the Port Orchard Municipal Code, which defines business to include all activities, occupations, pursuits, or professions located or engaged within the city, and specifically says for purposes of the chapter, business also includes medical marijuana dispensaries and collective gardens as defined under RCW 6951A, and that ties back to the RCW that I mentioned in my opening remarks. So the circle's closed there.
Okay. Thank you.
The second part, I would like to say on the car tabs that the statewide initiative took away back in about 2000, I believe it was. That was actually for a funding that was set aside for a $1.1 billion statewide transportation package that had been voted for. I believe it was in 1998 by the vote of the people. The reason I know about that, I was the assistant state treasurer, and we were about $1 billion short in transportation. That was ultimately funded, and it was funded through a gas tax increase passed by the legislature. Then the other thing I'd like to mention is the budget, and there's been a lot of talk about what is in the budget. I've spent a career being claimed to be a nitpicky accountant, and that's for a good thing. And I just want to reassure you that through the budget process, every dollar collected at this city is coded, and that follows all the way through to a budget process through the banking system, and it ends up at the end of the year in what we call our annual financial report. That's about 89 pages of every dollar tracked. It's also in spreadsheets, and also there are what's called notes to the financials. So if any of you'd like to follow through every penny, I would be more than happy to walk you through that because I'm quite proud of it. So your city has never had an audit finding regarding the loss of any public funds or any misuse of public funds, and I think that that's something you should be very proud of. So that concludes my remarks. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, quickly, just an update on building activity in our department. We've been keeping our hearing examiner busy. In 2013, we had one hearing, and in 2014, we had one hearing. or I'm sorry, 2014 and 2015, we had one each. This year, we've already had 5 hearings, and we have 3 more in the pipeline for later this year. We have scheduled a hearing for the Stetson Heights project for mid-August, and the Bayford has submitted a conditional use permit application, and we also have a proposal for the Kmart site. And as you're the appeals board that would hear any appeal of those projects, you should be aware that you should not have any ex parte communications about them. But just a heads up that those projects have come in, and we'll be moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, do you have anything for us tonight?
I do not have anything tonight. Thank you.
Brandy?
So, Councilmember Schmank has asked for the status of the lodging tax, where we're at with that. So I believe in first part of August, I will get our projected revenue of what the projected revenue will be for the lodging tax committee to go out and advertise for applications. Right now, we have reached out to the hoteliers. Those are the most challenging to get committed to be on the committee. Is this even on? And so of the, there it is, 2 bed and breakfasts and the 3 hotels, we have heard back from 3. 2 have agreed, 1 have not. The other 2 we're still waiting back to hear from. So hopefully in the next week or 2 we can give an update, and then the chair can move forward and getting the committee settled. At that time, it'll be the mayor's direction to provide a recommendation to the council for you guys to appoint the committee. So right now, at this time, we're probably looking anywhere from 4 committee members to 2 committee members. So there is definitely a lack of non-participation from the hoteliers / B&Bs. So again, once I get those, I'll bring it forth to the chair and the mayor, and it will be before the council to vote on who will be those committee members. And then in addition to that, I did discover that I have to go back and look and see who is required to do the OPMA and PRA, which is the Open Public Meetings Act and the Public Records Act, because now I'm understanding that there's been a different direction, and then all the committee members that are participating in the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee will be required to have the OPMA and the PRA training before they will be conducting the meeting. So once I get that confirmation again in the next week or 2, I will be sending out that information out to them to be aware, and then once the council makes the appointments, get them their training that they need.
Let's just make it more difficult for someone to volunteer.
Absolutely.
Makes it much more appealing, doesn't it?
I think it's one of those, it's not really unfunded, but unwarranted mandate. How's that? So that's what I have for that. Any questions on the Lodging Tax Committee update? Okay. And then I attended the AWC annual conference as well with Councilmember Ashby and the mayor. And I guess the one thing that I got a takeaway is I'm not really connected with our youth, but I do see that there's a lack of education to our youth and them being involved in our local government. And they had a speaker from a city in Oregon that actually, out of the mayor's office, they work hand in hand with the school districts, specifically the high school and some junior high, to get them educated on and involved in their local government. And so here in the next couple weeks, maybe a month, I would entertain a conversation with the mayor to see if I can come up with a proposal to see how we can get our youth involved, and then hopefully bring it to a committee and to a council. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, I had 18 6-year-olds in here.
Doing your part.
I was trying. All right, we are to our second citizens comment period. Yes, actually, we had the woman who asked if you could, waiting patiently. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for being patient.
Well, I'm Mary Feltz again, and I live at 1050 Hull Avenue. I've lived there for 58 years. And I want you to know that I've been frugal with my own funds. And I've voted for every school election, and I've done all the things that a good citizen needs to do. But I want this to come to a vote of the people, because we are the people, and you work for us. And we want you to bring this to a vote of the people. And I've talked to, I don't know how many people ever since I read this in the paper. And I said, what do you think about this? And 2 people said, they can do it if they want to, so you might as well keep your mouth shut. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But some people, a few people, want that to go through without a vote. But 80% of the people that I talk to want this to come to a vote because it's our money and you work for us and we would appreciate it. And I don't want you to make a special election, but put it on the ballot when there are other things on the ballot so it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. And I would appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Mr. Arnett.
Jerry Arnett, 288 Goldenrod, Port Orchard, Washington. Actually, I came here tonight to speak about something else, but now I guess we got to talk about the $20 card tab. Do you guys, does the council realize that there's a provision in the comprehensive plan that says when the acceleration of growth becomes complicated and the city don't know where they're going to get their funding, that they're allowed to put a real estate tax of 0.25%. I think I read this to you guys a few years back. But anyhow, if, you know, to benefit the people, I would think that you would want to look at that before you start taxing the people. Because after all, the people that have built all these houses and the acceleration of the building of the town and everything, they should pay for it, not the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Patrick Lucas. I reside at 232 Goldenrod Street, Port Orchard. What I want to talk about, or we the people want to talk about, is the building codes. We've had to listen to you tonight talk about it, and the director, he explained his part in it. Well, we the people have put in complaints, and not only that, concerns about stuff that's been going on Goldenrod Street, and we haven't been able to even get an appointment with the director or code enforcement because they say they're too busy or they're not available. So maybe Mayor and you and the City Council can answer these questions about, is there new amendments made to the building codes where they can build right on the property line, right up to the next neighbor's property line, put a structure up? And then also we found out there was no building permit even after the person built that. And in case you want to know what I'm talking about, it's 260 Goldenrod Street. There's a structure built there, no building permit, and the complaints are in. Not only that, the crew that goes through and does the maintenance on the streets has been brought to their attention, and they said they had contacted the building code people, and there was no answer. So maybe you can get our director there to explain to you, well, how can that happen? Have we got a new amendment to build right up on the line? No room in between, just build right up to it, to the fence. If you can do that for us, we'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Others? Jerry?
Seems like the code enforcement officer is being talked about tonight. I wanted to talk about past practice of the city, and I've lived in my home for about 38 years, and every couple of years the city public works crew comes down and cuts the trees, I guess, for the garbage truck and things like that. And so this past week, our code enforcement officer I noticed somebody walking up and down the alley several times and then parked at my sister's place, and I happened to be there. And she went out to talk with him, and basically I talked about the city had been maintaining the alleys here in Port Orchard, or at least the tall trees. And it kind of bothered me, the attitude, well, if other people have to maintain the back of their property, you should have to do it too. But the back of my property has had a lot of fill that I think the city put in rocks that I have a very steep incline. Now I can go and cut the brush a little bit, but those trees are, I know that my grandmother never planted one of the trees there at the back of the lot. But the whole point is, if the city has changed their mind on that, it seems like that we could be notified that they are no longer going to be doing something like this. But it's the garbage truck, you know, that is brushing against the limbs of the trees. And if they're cutting the trees on the street for, Mr. Dorsey said, for the buses and the others, it seems like the back alley should also fit in that for the garbage truck to come down the back alley.
I'm sorry we don't have Mr. Dorsey here this evening,
I
I
realize
think Brandy's going to
So
probably take
anyway,
note of that comment.
the whole point is that I've cut on mine. Other people are out there cutting. We haven't received a letter up to this point in time, but was a little upset maybe with the attitude toward me. And then another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I have to be fast here, I think that you have a responsibility to be going to the state and discussing the way funds are coming to you. And I was thinking, I've put 6,000 miles on my black car in the last 2.5 years. I have been on Bethel once in probably the last 5 years. But I'm going to pay the same price that people that are traveling all over. There should be something on usage, car usage, because a lot of the elderly are not using the streets the way they are. And there should be something maybe based on mileage. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have to tell you, one of the sessions I attended was on that very subject on transportation funding and usage, and maybe it potentially needs to be an enterprise fund, much like a utility, based on you have a base amount and mileage, and it's some interesting conversation. Fair point. Mr. Murphy, do you have a comment for us?
My comment is on the administrative review, special use, whatever that was. I would like to see once that process or once something is done, that the public has an opportunity to take a look at it, preferably more than 48 hours before any public hearing. So if possible, you know, if when it's available, it's put out, that it can be looked at. And then I think that it's been beat to death that, and it's indicative of government in general, is the people don't know what's going on. You know, the people are, I mean, I've talked to some of you, and I know, you know, what some of the issues are. General public doesn't know what some of the issues are. Getting the information out early, getting ahead of the curve on some of these things, I think that would go a long way in smoothing over some of the stuff. And I'm sorry, Ms. Lucarelli, but that stuff on wells just didn't sound that exciting. I'm sorry.
I think there are some people that are quite engaged.
I needed to be there? Okay.
The cost of the well upgrades is huge.
How about $6 million?
Bobby, what do you have for us this evening? Okay.
Bobby Stewart, 801 Bay Street. And I've listened to all the comments. They all seem to have their own views, and I'm sure that their situation and what they go through, their views come out. For my own self, I think I just want to put it in the council's hand and know that you're all going to make the right decision on this. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Whittleton.
City business license,
I spent about an hour of pure frustration trying to pay a business license online today. It was a wonderful thing. When it was all said and done, it cost me $68 for the city to get 35. I think, I don't know, we're probably going to eliminate our business license altogether just because it's not worth it. The regional park. We've had this discussion a few times about the all the additions that were put on that exceeded the grant amounts. And every time the reasoning behind doing it now was we won't be able to get heavy equipment into the park to do it later. We're in the planning phase. Shouldn't we be planning to be able to get heavy equipment in for maintenance, for future construction, for anything? Maybe look at having a heavy equipment access rather than just saying, well, we got to throw another $500,000 at it to, or $250,000 at it to finish it now is a bit hasty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, no, you only get one bite of the apple. Mr. Showers gets a comment, though.
Bob Showers, 1425 Flower Avenue. It was me that asked about the $3.2 million, and I was just wondering now, so to clarify, that was $3.2 million that you did get? And
That money has been spent for design and right-of-way.
Okay, so the $3.2 million is gone?
That is correct.
Okay.
The remaining portion, it's not all gone, but it's,
That's what I was wondering. I mean, if $3.2 million was allotted for the project and you're utilizing it, is there something that shows what that money was spent for?
Design and
absolutely.
right-of-way. We bought property along to widen the road and to design the project. So I think we have right around.
if you like to make an appointment,
You know, I might do that.
Please
because
do.
I see some of the property that was bought that I kind of have questions about.
Right, it's a federal grant, so it's all documented. We'll walk you right through it. Be glad to.
And I'm kind of leery about putting out $20 for tabs because I was involved in the the new well that was dug up at Tremont there, and they had that fiasco and I still have dirty water and everything. So I'm leery about putting out $20 for license for a project that I'm not so sure. I would like to see it go to a vote too for the people. But if it isn't, have you guys ever thought about, and this might be a little far-fetched, but I see an awful lot of people, and I don't want to put bike lanes in, but I see an awful lot of people on bicycles using the roads and stuff a lot. So maybe we ought to think about giving them a $5 license fee or a $10 license fee and letting those people help pay. So that's my comment.
Luxury cars.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, not seeing any. It is time. Mr. Chang?
I have a good of the order question, and I'd like to suggest that people with questions about the vehicle license fee email them to the mayor for an answer. To get an answer, for example, I have a couple that I'd like to have answered before our next agenda, so I will be addressing them to you.
Wonderful. I look forward to it. All right, with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Okay. The revenue.
I don't know. I think the intent
Or is it a philosophy? Because
I think that's people just making things up.
well, that's something I'd like to address because I thought it was going to change.
It's going to preservation and maintenance, right?
So it's not
right
strictly
now.
going to.
No, no.
Okay, that's what I
No.
Well,
But the deal is first
It
of
frees
all,
up other money that could go there. Yes.
yes, because right now